From Brain World magazine. People in the early throes of love have brain activity that matches the brain activity of a drug addict in need of a fix. It's involuntary. The brain's fear alert system, the amygdala, and our judgment and reasoning system, the anterior cingulate cortex and prefrontal cortex, are nearly muted, while the neurotransmitter dopamine floods the brain's pleasure and reward centres. What's more, brain circuits associated with states of obsession, mania and recklessness are also activated. Amphetamines, cocaine and opiates such as heroin, morphine and OxyContin trigger these same circuits. So there you go. Don't do drugs.
Not as cheaper, is it?
It absolutely is, yeah. So I'm going to sing something that fits with that. So there's one of the things that's kind of going on at the moment is this idea that people who fall in love can somehow be, if you fall in love with the wrong gender, then, especially in America at the moment, then you're in trouble. And I think the idea that I listened to this lovely recording shortly before I set off on this tour, which was from a program in the 1980s, which is Tammy Faye Bakker, who was a great kind of Christian. When I say great, I mean popular. A popular Christian evangelist TV multimillionaire. She was the wife of Jimmy Bakker, Jimmy Swaggart Bakker. Anyway, he ended up in prison, on the usual kind of charges of sexual impropriety, embezzling funds, all that sort of stuff. But so she was like, really into that whole kind of born again Christian, give me all your money kind of thing. But when the AIDS crisis happened, and she was completely homophobic, when the AIDS crisis happened, she underwent this kind of change that happened apparently within the space of about a month, where she realised that she'd watched something, some kind of programme or something that showed the suffering that some of the people who had AIDS, the AIDS victims, were going through. And I think she would describe it as having kind of broken her heart, and so she did one of her shows, which is like a big show, and it was on telly and millions of viewers and everything, and she turned it over to being about how we need to stop being so prejudiced and start loving people who are suffering. And it's an amazing thing to listen to, because she's kind of going back on everything that she'd said. But it's all coming from this place of, you can tell she's really emotional about it. It's a really beautiful thing. And which obviously isn't going to happen with Donald Trump. But I've got a friend in, I was really homophobic when I was a kid, because I was brought up as a Mormon. It's part of the Mormon teaching. And it's weird, because just when the world, you think that culture is kind of progressing, you get people like the Mormon Church digging their heels in. They're not bending to the idea of let's welcome people in the church that aren't basically heterosexual, and which is really sad, so many years later. But I discovered the idea of not being homophobic through Tom Robinson releasing a single called "Glad to Be Gay," which is such a kind of simple way of finding out. And what it was the same with racism as well. I was really racist. It was this idea that of realising that Tom Strummer and the Slits and all the Cool and everything were all into these certain things, and I wasn't. And I thought, I want to be with the cool people, because I didn't want to be with the idiots who were in the National Front and stuff like that. And so when people say, as they have often done in my life anyway, they say, "Oh, do you think that politics in music can ever change anything?" And I always think, well, yeah, it completely changed the way I thought about everything. So this is a little bit of a possibly